In 1952, Japanese oceanographic research vessel Kaiyō Maru No. 5 was sent to investigate the mysterious disappearances of 9 other Japanese ships in the same notorious location, the Dragon's Triangle. This mission proved to be unsuccessful, as Kaiyō Maru also vanished with no trace. Is this story just a myth, or is something strange happening in the Bermuda Triangle of the Pacific Ocean? Among all sea mysteries involving lost ships, the Bermuda Triangle holds a very special place. It always seemed like this spot, which became the demise of many ships and planes, just stole the show. But did you know that there are about 12 small sea regions with a similarly bad reputation, and sometimes even worse? They're called Vile Vortices. This term was coined by Scottish biologist Ivan Sanderson, who became the founder of a society interested in investigating unexplained mysteries. He called 12 Vile Vortices a geometric anomaly, since all of them were equally distant from each other, and collectively, they resembled a nearly perfect icosahedron when overlaid on the world map. All these places were notorious for stories about missing people and sometimes whole vessels with their crew. Ivan Sanderson couldn't come up with an explanation for all the disappearances for a long time, even when he saw a clear pattern. This geometrical shape formed on the globe by bad places couldn't just be a coincidence. And then he saw that vile vortices often share one noticeable quality. These were the places where hot and cold air streams or hot and cold sea currents met each other. According to his idea, this kind of collision could produce electromagnetic irregularities that are yet to be scientifically explained. Of course, Sanderson's claims weren't widely accepted, but one thing still can't be overlooked as simple superstition. Those places are real, and they really are guilty of countless mysterious disappearances. One of these spots is so frightening, it's actually strange that it's not widely known as the Bermuda Triangle. It's situated on the opposite side of the globe from the Bermuda Triangle, close to Tokyo, Japan. Throughout history, it's earned itself several menacing names like the Devil's Sea, Pacific Bermuda Triangle, and the Dragon's Triangle. Japanese people call it Ma no Umi, which means Evil Sea. Even though a lot of places around the Japanese islands deserve this name, the Dragon's Triangle remains the most known and feared of them all. Due to the lack of research, it's hard to outline precisely where the Dragon's Triangle begins and ends, but it supposedly lies in an area of Izu Islands south of Tokyo. It's there that seamen from ancient times saw lights in the water and spontaneous unexplainable turbulence on the surface of the sea. Sometimes giant rogue waves were emerging seemingly from nowhere, and sometimes vile typhoons would appear in just a matter of minutes from clear blue skies. In fact, that's why this vile vortex was called the Devil's Triangle in the first place. Since ancient times, local fishermen believed that there was a sea dragon that lived on the bottom near the Izu Islands. They thought the dragon's will could summon typhoons, its movements were releasing huge waves, and its magic breath was the reason for lights and giant gas bubbles appearing near the surface. Or maybe the dragon just farted. Hey, who's to say? But strangely enough, that wasn't the reason why this place became so notorious. It's even worth noting that Japanese people traditionally tend to live in peace with the supernatural world, and dragons certainly weren't always considered a bad thing back then. One particular account credits a dragon as their hero. This story is the beginning of the alleged supernatural events linked to the Dragon's Triangle. In the 13th century, Mongolian Khan Kublai, the grandson of Genghis Khan, planned an invasion of the Japanese islands. 900 ships full of soldiers and sailors were sent to cross the Dragon's Triangle for this purpose. When they came near the shore, one of those unpredictable typhoons began suddenly. It crumbled most of the Kublai Khan's ships and ruined his plans once and for all. Even the word kamikaze was first used there to describe this typhoon. Kamikaze means the divine wind, and that's a good testament to how fearsome this storm was. So, was it a dragon spirit protecting his land? Or maybe the strange electromagnetic force of the Dragon's Triangle? It's hard to be sure, but it doesn't look that supernatural. Mongolians were experienced nomadic warriors, excellent with bows, arrows, and their mighty steeds. But in no way, shape, or form were they the best at sailing. Keep in mind that typhoons around Japan are not rare in general, and you'll have a perfectly explainable natural event accompanied by the inability of Mongolian ships to deal with it. But that's only the beginning of the story of the Dragon's Triangle. Most of its bad reputation was earned in 1974, when a writer and investigator of the supernatural, Charles Berlitz, released his book, The Bermuda Triangle. According to Berlitz, there were 9 strange disappearances in the 1950s in the location of the Dragon's Triangle. All the missing ships were modern, properly equipped Japanese naval vessels, and the weather was good. They wouldn't just vanish without a trace. Soon, Japanese authorities attempted an investigation and sent research vessel Kaiyō Maru No. 5. But it also vanished, and in the same almost ideal weather conditions. If you believe Charles Berlitz's account of events, Kaiyō Maru No. 5 had 100 people that were never seen again after setting off to the Dragon's Triangle. Japanese authorities then restricted all further investigations and labeled the spot a danger zone. But the fact is, there were only 31 people on board Kaiyō Maru No. 5. Berlitz also claimed that some missing ships were as massive as 200,000-ton tankers, and that disappearances were happening frequently for thousands of years. You know something fishy is going on when stories are that exaggerated. And to be fair, the most paranormal thing about this story is how many people believed in it. The only person with enough skepticism to conduct his own investigation of events was a modest librarian, Larry Kusch. In 1974, he released a book called The Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved. In this book, he debunked lots of stories linked to the Bermuda Triangle, but he didn't forget about Berlitz's story of the Dragon's Triangle either. He was persistent in his attempts to contact Japanese authorities and newspapers, but he failed to find anything about the Dragon's Triangle. This area and all its supposed hazards were almost entirely unknown to Japan. Furthermore, Kusch was able to figure out that all 9 missing ships that vanished near the Izu Islands in the 50s were small fishing vessels, the most vulnerable ships out there. At the time, these ships were poorly equipped, and some of them didn't even have any way to transmit an SOS signal. When ships like that would sink, it would seem like they just vanished. But what about the tragic fate of Kaiyō Maru No. 5? That ship was surely prepared for anything. And why was it sent there if nothing strange happened? Well, first, the research ship wasn't investigating any strange vanishings of other ships. It was on a routine survey of volcanic activity in the region. The second thing, and the most important, the ship was later found, and its demise was due to a sudden volcanic eruption. So, no mystery here? Nothing supernatural, it seems. But let's not forget about the most mysterious thing that exists – nature itself. I didn't overlook all the ancient evidence about lights in the water and strange occurrences on the surface. They do have an explanation, and the coolest one at that. Japan is based upon volcanoes. All the islands here are the product of their underground activity. Countless little volcanic pores are scattered along the bottom of the ocean around Japan. Their eruptions would look like flashes of light coming from the water. The water around would grumble and appear unstable, as if something is moving and roaring in the depths. And more than that, eruptions may disturb vast deposits of methane hydrate lying on the cold bottom. Here it's contained by high pressure and low temperatures as a solid ice-like object. But if this substance goes to the surface and reaches 64 degrees, it rapidly transforms into a gas state. So from the surface, it would look like the sea itself swallows whatever's lucky enough to be in the way of a giant gas bubble coming up. So, it's not a dragon fart after all? Too bad. Well, call me a superstitious coward, but I would probably say it's a monster or alien vessel attack if I saw something like that in person. No wonder people were believing in sea dragons living in the Izu Islands area. And I was beginning to think that Kaiyō Maru No. 5 was just a shishi Japanese fragrance for men. Anyway, the story is a good reminder that there are no mysteries that we can't solve if we try. Have you ever debunked someone's tale? And how did you do it? Let me know down in the comments. If you learned something new today, then give this video a like and share it with a friend. But hey, don't go missing just yet. We have over 2,000 cool videos for you to check out. All you have to do is pick the left or right video, click on it, and enjoy. Stay on the bright side of life.